Stay alert, stay safe. If you grew up in Canada in the 90s and early 2000s, you saw this commercial often on channels like YTV, CTV, and others. Bert and Gert were the iconic duo in showing Canadian kids on how to stay safe. But there's a dark backstory in the reason they were created. This is the story about the murder of 11-year-old Alison Perrott. Before we get into this story, if you're a fan of Canadian nostalgic content, particularly as a millennial, hit that subscribe button. And if there's any particular nostalgic content that you'd like to be featured, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and let's get into the story. The 80s was the era of stranger danger, when tragedies mixed with fear and misinformation created distrust and times of panic. Fearful parents signed their children up for street-proofing classes that taught children how to deal with strangers and avoid risky situations. The 80s was particularly a sketchy time in Toronto. Within the span of 36 months, there had been 3 high-profile child abduction cases, with all being found in similar situations: strangled and sexually assaulted. In 1986, Alison Perrott, an elementary school student at the time, gained the opportunity to represent Ontario at a track and field tournament in New Jersey. The talented runner was called upon to accept the track banner on behalf of her peers and was set to compete on August 1st of that summer. On July 25th, Alison's residence was phoned, and Alison was home to answer the phone call from the unknown man. He identified himself as a photographer, looking to take publicity photos of her upcoming track event. Alison called her mother to request permission for the photo shoot, thinking that other athletes were going to participate as well. The invitation seemed valid, and Alison's mother agreed and told her to be home by 2:30 p.m. 2:30 rolled around and Alison was not home. By 5 p.m., Leslie Perrott, Alison's mother, started calling friends and neighbors about Alison's whereabouts, and by 6 p.m., she called the police. With all the recent disappearances occurring, Alison's name was added to the list and her photos were posted all across the city, with her parents appearing on television, praying for Alison's safe return. 55 hours went by and Alison's body was found in a West End park, strangled and sexually assaulted. While Alison was found, it was still unsure of who committed this atrocity. It was uncovered by police during the investigation that during the month of July of 1986, various phone calls were made to all families listed under Perrott in the phone book from a man who said he wanted to speak to Alison. The search of the murder went on for years and turned into a cold case file. It was later determined that Francis Carl Roy should be questioned as a suspect of the murder, and police had DNA matches to prove it. Roy had a criminal record dating back to 1976, and at the time of the murder was on parole after serving only 2.5 years of a consecutive 11-year sentence for the sexual assaults of a 14 and a 19-year-old. Roy had been back and forth between Toronto and Vancouver, being the suspect of various crimes and assaults. After a month-long trial and 6 days of deliberation, on April 13, 1999, after more than a decade of Alison's death, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on first-degree murder, and Roy was sentenced to automatic life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for 25 years. While there were 37 murders in Toronto in 1986 alone, Alison's was the most expensive and in-depth investigation in the city's history. The case triggered extensive conversations on child safety. Wanting to prevent future crimes like this, Perrott launched her own street-proofing campaign alongside her colleagues at J. Walter Thompson, the well-known agency she worked at. Perrott drew messages that were focused on educating and empowering children, with the iconic message, "Stay alert, stay safe." Today, we look back on Bert and Gert and we see them as happy characters, sending children important messages about how to stay safe. Perrott wanted to encompass more of a positive approach to informing children about safety, rather than fear tactics. You would never know by looking at the iconic Stay Alert, Stay Safe PSA that there's a dark history behind it, but the campaign forever lives in our nostalgic minds and serves as the foundation for impactful PSAs nationwide. Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button if you like this kind of content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.